And as a result, Extreme tried to recruit Top Cow's top talent, notably Michael Turner, their best new artist and the co-creator of the successful Witchblade series. As a result, Mark Silvestri and Top Cow left Image on June 6, 1996, though Silvestri still retained partnership rights. This was the final straw for the rest of the Image founders, who voted on August 6, 1996 to remove Rob Liefeld from Image. The vote was unanimous, except for Liefeld, of course, but the bylaws of Image required that the founders voted again after at least a week to confirm removing someone. And that vote was scheduled for September 4th. However, Rob Liefeld quit instead before the final vote, faxing in his resignation letter. Eric Larson, a fellow Image founder and creator of Savage Dragon, called it pulling a Richard Nixon, resigning before he could be impeached. To date, Liefeld still argues he quit, though the vote was assured he was going to be voted out anyway. On October 2nd, he sued Image for $1 million, claiming Image Comics had frozen his revenue from Extreme Studios, claiming it was slowing the shipment of Youngblood, Prophet, and Supreme, along with claiming libel and slander. Image Comics would countersue, and both parties would later settle the next year. After the double disappointments of being removed from Heroes Reborn and Image Comics, Rob Liefeld decided to bounce back by turning Maximum Press and Extreme Studios into Awesome Comics, of which he was CEO with Jeff Loeb being the publisher. The new company received financing from John Hyde, the CEO of Film Roman, and Scott Mitchell Rosenberg, the new chairman of Platinum Studios and the founder and former president of Malibu Comics, where he originally established his working relationship with Liefeld. Malibu Comics itself had been sold to Marvel back in 1994. Awesome Comics continued many of the comics from Extreme Studios' lineup, along with producing new titles like Kaboom, The Coven, and Lionheart by Loeb and artist Ian Churchill. Awesome also hired Alan Moore to revive the comics line, which actually began under the Image in Extreme Studios and is run on Supreme, a Superman-like hero originally created while still at Image. This run was highly lauded, beginning with issue number 41 in Extreme and issue number 49 under Awesome. Moore would deconstruct Supreme into a 1950s to 60s version of the Mort Weisinger run on Superman, and his run is credited as one of the highlights of the acclaimed writer's career, which is saying something considering this guy also did Watchmen and V for Vendetta. And it also resulted in him winning the 1997 Eisner for Best Writer. With that success, Alan Moore was given free rein to revamp the entire Awesome universe with the crossover event Judgment Day, in which a member of Youngblood is put on trial for murder, with the other members flashing back to the event. Alan Moore was then tasked with relaunching Youngblood with artist Steve Skroce, but the comic was plagued with scheduling issues, along with the comic Glory, a revival of the superheroine who first appeared in Youngblood Strike File number 1. Glory saw one comic, issue number 0, published under Awesome, but none other. Outside of Alan Moore's work, Kaboom was published by writer Jeff Loeb and artist Jeff Masuda about Jeff Sunrise, who on his 16th birthday receives the Kaboom power, only to then be hunted by a group of demons called the Nine. Artists Ian Churchill and Jeff Loeb created two series as well, The Coven and Lionheart. The Coven was a supernatural series that dealt with dealing with the battle between heaven and hell, while Lionheart was about an archaeologist, Karen Quinn, who was accidentally transformed into Lionheart, a being infused with divine power dating back to the Garden of Eden. Rob Liefeld also made an effort to try a patriotic superhero after being fired from Captain America by Marvel when he attempted to buy the rights to The Fighting American, which was also created by Jack Kirby and Joe Simon in 1954 in response to Timely, then Marvel, relaunching Captain America at the same time without them. Liefeld wanted to continue a story he had planned for Captain America before Marvel terminated him, and he hoped to use that story for The Fighting American instead. However, the Simon family's licensing fee was too high, so Liefeld instead created his own patriotic superhero, Agent America. Liefeld drew a few pinups and a poster before Simon's family threatened to sue him over copyright of Fighting American. Instead, Liefeld and Simon negotiated a new deal using Fighting American and was ready to go, until Marvel then threatened to sue them over the character being too close to Captain America. Liefeld and Simon were to blunt some of the lawsuit by merging Fighting American with Agent America, and all parties eventually settled, though one of the conditions from Marvel was that Fighting American could never throw his shield like a weapon. Under Awesome, Fighting American was John Flagg, a former soldier who gained superpowers through an experiment that can never be duplicated. There seems like there's some merit to this lawsuit. In the mini-series Rules of the Game, writer Jeff Loeb and Art McDennis introduced his original villains back from the run in the 1950s, while Dogs of War by Jim Starlin and Stephen Platt showed how they got around the shield throwing. Instead, he uses throwing darts and stars and stuff like that. Unfortunately, Rob Liefeld hadn't learned any of his mistakes from the speculation crash, as many of Awesome's comics used gimmicks to spur sales, such as Youngblood having 11 variant covers. In addition, disputes with partners and erratic quality of the release schedules led to an ever-decreasing sales, leading to the company to finally collapse in the year 2000. Alan Moore would move on to Wildstorm under his own America's Best Comic Books, ABC, imprint, where Liefeld would later claim many of his ideas started under Awesome, while the rest of the writers and artists, notably Jeff Loeb, Ian Churchill, Ed McGuinness, and Jeff Matsuda, went on to have successful careers at Marvel and DC. As for Rob Liefeld, he found himself back at Marvel. Rob Liefeld returned not only to Marvel but also to the X-Men series, doing covers and interiors for Cable and the X-Force comics. In 2004, he reunited with his X-Force writer Fabian Nicieza for an X-Force Limited series, along with covers for Deadpool. The previous year, Liefeld also forwarded Arcade Comics with the intention of doing a new Youngblood series through it, the first being Youngblood Genesis with Brandon Thomas, then Youngblood Bloodsport with Mark Millar. In 2006, he and Jeff Loeb returned to the Heroes Reborn universe with a 5-issue miniseries, Onslaught Reborn, but it was met with poor reviews. In 2007, Rob Liefeld teamed with writer Robert Kirkman for his Killraven miniseries, based on a freedom fighter in a post-apocalyptic world originally created by Roy Thomas, Neil Adams, and Jerry Conway, which first appeared in Amazing Adventures number 18, Volume 2 on May of 1973. However, despite 5 issues reportedly being produced, Marvel never published them, a sore spot for Liefeld to this day, as he still considers it some of his best work. It did create a bond with Robert Kirkman, a now popular writer thanks to Invincible and The Walking Dead at Liefeld's old company Image, where Kirkman would soon become its first partner since the company's founding. Kirkman grew up reading Image comics and was naturally a huge fan of Rob Liefeld, one of the original founders. Kirkman was also worried, though, that Liefeld would eventually publish Youngblood through Image, so he arranged for him to return to Image Comics instead, even hosting him and the rest of the founders at the 15th anniversary panel in July of 2007 at the San Diego Comic-Con. There was announced that Youngblood would be returning to Image with Joe Casey writing and art by Derek Donovan, along with Val Staples, while Liefeld would provide the covers. In 2010, Rob Liefeld returned to Deadpool when he penciled issue number 1 of Prelude to the Deadpool Corps, along with the first 9 issues of Deadpool Corps, which featured various versions of the Merc with a Mouth from different dimensions, including Kidpool and Dogpool. In March of 2011, it was announced he was re-teaming with writer Robert Kirkman on the miniseries Infinite, only to be canceled by the next year over a disagreement with the inker Liefeld hired for 14 pages in issue number 5, but Liefeld ended up just inking himself. In June of 2011, it was announced that Rob Liefeld was returning to DC for a new Hawk and Dove series with writer Sterling Gates for the New 52 relaunch. The series would be canceled as issue number 8, and Liefeld was then hired to take over 3 different series, Grifter, Deathstroke, and The Savage Hawkman, where he plotted all 3 while writing and penciling Deathstroke. Of interesting note, Rob Liefeld made it a point to attack his critics by drawing many of these covers with feet, as Liefeld was constantly criticized for the fact he can't draw feet very well, though his art has significantly improved as he's aged. While he originally planned to stay on these series until the end of 2013, he abruptly quit in August of 2012, with issue number 0s being his last issues. Liefeld specifically cited editor Brian Smith as the reason, along with numerous rewrites from the corporate structure. He also specifically hated Scott Clark's art on Grifter, calling it crap. Numerous writers and artists defended DC, saying that the mandate came from keeping the New 52 titles consistent throughout, leading to a tense Twitter exchange between Rob Liefeld, writer Scott Snyder, and editor Tom Brevoort. After leaving DC, Rob Liefeld concentrated on his new Arcade Comics and producing creator-owned works from 2011 to 2012, such as the relaunch of Evangeline under Image Comics by Mark Putain and Owen Guinea, a Bloodstrike series by Tim Seeley, Glory by Joe Kinich and Sophie Campbell, and Prophet by Brendan Graham. He also brought back Youngblood by John McLaughlin, John Mayland, and Supreme with Eric Larson. However, Rob Liefeld couldn't stay away from controversy when he tweeted about his co-creation, Deadpool, stating, "It's a testament to Deadpool's appeal and durability that he survives regardless of being regulated a D-list talent. Marvel's A-list never touches him." This naturally angered creators and fans alike. He pointed out numerous talented writers and artists have worked on Deadpool, from Joe Madureira to Ed McGuinness, with more than a few even mocking Liefeld from their work on the character. Artist Dave Johnson proclaimed, "Yes, I'm being elevated to D-list," when he was hired on to do Deadpool, referencing the video where Rob Liefeld claimed to ink while driving. Ultimately, Liefeld would apologize for his comments, saying he couldn't take it back, but it didn't mean he didn't mean to offend any artists who worked on Deadpool. That wasn't to say his old co-creation wouldn't lead to a bright spot in his career, as he got the cameo as a man in a bar in the Deadpool motion picture, which is directed by Tim Miller and starred Ryan Reynolds. The character originally made his motion picture debut in the highly panned X-Men Origins Wolverine back in 2009, in which Reynolds also played the character, and the actor had been working to make a film of the character ever since. Fox, who owned the rights, was hesitant, but when a test footage of a possible film was leaked at July 14th, 2014, just in time for that year's San Diego Comic-Con, go figure, Fox greenlit the picture for a release on February 12, 2016. When it opened, the film was met with immediate critical and audience acclaim, praising Ryan Reynolds' performance along with the humor and staying true to the character's comic book roots. It was helped by a brilliant marketing campaign, from suggestive posters to an out-of-nowhere commercials. In one, Deadpool celebrates of all things Australia Day. As someone who's half Aussie, I can appreciate that. And of course, takes a shot at Wolverine / Hugh Jackman. All this led to an astounding $780 million worldwide gross against a $58 million budget, making it one of the most successful R-rated movies of all time. Naturally, a sequel was greenlit, with Deadpool 2 premiering on May 10th, 2018, which also featured the live-action debut of another Rob Liefeld co-creation, Cable, played by Josh Brolin. While not quite living up to the first film, it still had a brilliant marketing campaign, and the first trailer, Deadpool does an impression of the famous PBS artist Bob Ross, and was well received by critics and audiences alike, grossing $785 million worldwide against a $110 million budget. It also featured a brilliant after-credits sequence in which Deadpool goes back in time to not only kill the version of him in the X-Men Origins movie, but also Ryan Reynolds before he can make the Green Lantern movie. If only that was true. A PG-13 version of the film was also made, Once Upon a Deadpool, as a test to see if the character could operate in a toned-down story, as Disney Marvel Studios had bought Fox Entertainment, the owner of the X-Men and Fantastic Four rights, and of course, Deadpool as well. This was with a larger plan to see if he could be integrated in the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is mostly PG-13. No concrete plans for a third film have been made yet, though all involved have expressed interest in doing so. Back on the comics front, Rob Liefeld managed to find controversy once again when he tweeted on June of 2019 about DC making sweeping editorial changes after a printing error with the comic Batman Damned, which featured the character going full frontal when treating his injuries in the Batcave, which led to the comic selling out, incidentally, and DC removing the nudity from future printings. So if you have that original copy of Batman Damned, it's worth a pretty penny now. Liefeld mocked DC in the tweets, claiming the company was heading off a cliff and wouldn't survive if it wasn't for Batman. Writer Mark Millar challenged his claim, pointing out DC had many viable properties, such as Superman and The Flash, only for Liefeld to tweet again that DC should just fire everyone, including Poe publisher and fellow Image founder Jim Lee, and stating that with that would free up Lee to return to Marvel and do another X-Men comic. I'll be honest, I wouldn't mind seeing that. Rob Liefeld would later delete both tweets, apologizing afterwards, and thus remaining ever the center of the controversy. Today, Rob Liefeld works for Marvel on Major X comic, which details the adventures of Cable and Storm's son from the future. According to Rob Liefeld, he implied a romantic connection between those two in his original New Mutants and X-Force books. He's still living in Anaheim, California, where he's happily married with his 3 kids. Despite leaving Image, he remains fond of those years and still works for the company from time to time. While Liefeld is back to working for the Big Two, his mark on comics and the independent movement can't be denied. Image Comics wouldn't have existed without him, and even after leaving, his mark is still fed in helping create one of the great companies in American comic books, along with more than a few of his great characters. I would like to thank my chief source of this episode, Image Comics, The Road to Independence by George Corey, which doesn't feature an interview with Rob Liefeld, the one founder who didn't contribute to the book, but does feature a nice overview of his career. A great read for all Image fans. And now it is November 14th, 2019, time for the favorite comic of the week, X-Men #2 by Jonathan Hickman and Lian Yu, that finds a Cyclops going on a mission with his kids, Rachel Summers and Cable, to find out why Krakoa, the island that's now forming the headquarters for the New Mutant civilization, is heading toward a new island. Hickman does once again a great job balancing both the fantastic and the mundane, with them going on this crazy mission about a living island and what's the mystery behind it, while at the same time Cyclops is making it as a fun outing with his kids, which is, well, the X-Men, and this is kind of a natural thing happening. Yes, it is a little weird, like pointing out the fact that Cyclops and But like Rachel Summers is not much older than Cyclops, and also Cable's now young again. Some things to catch up